Greetings to everybody. I am Professor Akshay Anand. I'm a professor of neuroscience at PGI-MER, one of the medical institutes in North India, in the beautiful city of Chandigarh. And I welcome you all to this important session of integrative health, or integrative medicine as they call it. And we are today joined by three distinguished speakers and three distinguished chairpersons to moderate or chair the sessions. We have Dr. H.R. Nagendra, the Chancellor of S. Vyasa, one of the largest yoga universities in the world. And we have Dr. Bala Subramaniam from Harvard Medical School, an associate professor, and Dr. Arun Garg joined us from Canada, who's also shares the vision for integrative medicine. And they all will be, they have three speeches to give, and they will have their chairpersons, Dr. Suman Kolipara and Dr. Ajay Gambhir and Dr. Harish Gupta. And I welcome the audience to be interactive and listen to these sessions. These are the three thought leaders. And you can always put your questions in the chat box with your emails and names, so we can reply to that. The way this is formatted, we will address the questions within a week's time. So you're encouraged to listen to the distinguished thought leaders and put your comments and questions over there. So without much ado, I will now introduce the first chairperson, Dr. Suman Kolipara. Dr. Suman Kolipara is going to introduce Dr. H.R. Nagendra, whom we fondly call Guruji. Dr. Suman is a co-founder of a non-profit Peace Tree Innovation Society, Center for Wellness and Oneness in Vancouver, Canada. It has a mission to create human wellness through grassroots initiatives. For past 14 years, Dr. Suman has been a disciple of ancient sage Sunita Amma, and who has brought into light an ancient healing program, Sukshma, with foundation in yogic and Ayurvedic systems of healing. Dr. Suman has also presented along with Sunita Amma at the World Health Organization and United Nations at Geneva on the 4th International Day of Yoga, which is June 21st. And Dr. Suman is also an author of the book Ancient Sage for Silicon Age, which presents simplified yogic wisdom in a format palatable for common man. Although we have lots of physicians, and since this program is live on the public domain, I'm sure other non-professionals will also be watching. So I hope that this is a good discussion. Deliberations help both the patients as well as physicians and other practitioners of other systems of medicine as we begin to deliberate on the importance of integrative health and why it is important, what the definitions are, why the demands suddenly have arisen when the COVID struck us all as a pandemic, and what can it offer, and what it has actually, how can we evolve it legally, ethically. And let's go to Dr. Suman Kolipara directly, who will now introduce Dr. H.R. Nagendra. Welcome all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akshay Anand, for the warm introduction. And also heartfelt gratitude to Gapio for giving me such an honorable position of introducing none other than Dr. Nagendra. Dr. H.R. Nagendra is founder and chancellor of Sri Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhana Samsthana, also called as S. Vyasa. S. Vyasa is a center of advanced research in yoga and neurophysiology accredited by the Indian Council of Medical Research, ICMR. Dr. Nagendra, popularly addressed as Guruji all around the world, received his bachelor degree in mechanical engineering from Bangalore University and Doctor of Philosophy from Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore in 1968. Dr. Nagendra has received many awards and honors and was recognized by the Government of India with Padma Shri, the highest civilian honor of India. Dr. Nagendra has devoted many years in developing integrative health and is heading multiple committees within the Government of India to support excellence and quality in yoga teaching, research, and therapy. Dr. Nagendra is recognized as Yoga Guru of Sri Narendra Modi, Honorable Prime Minister of India. He is also the man behind initiating International Day of Yoga to make yoga a global practice. He has published more than 200 research papers and 35 books in the field of yoga and its applications in health and disease. Dr. Nagendra is also the president of Indian Yoga Association. I would like to now warmly welcome Dr. Nagendra to speak.
My dear brothers and sisters, first of all, I congratulate our very dear Dr. Akshay Anand for organizing this wonderful meet, and Dr. Suman Kolipara, the chairman of this session. Now, all of you are aware that integrative medicine has started coming up in a very big way throughout the world. And normally, the different systems of medicines are just put them together to make it integrative. But is there a basis on which the entire systems can be put together in a very scientific way? It's here that yoga comes into picture. According to our Upanishads, which form the basis for yoga, we all have 5 layers in our entire system. The physical body, then we have the bioplasmic layer, then we have the astral field or mind field, then we have the information field or Vijnanamaya Kosha, and the bliss field. In the world at large also, what we have found is the physical world made of the electromagnetic field. Then the subtle than that is the bioplasmic field, then we have the astral field of the mind, then we have the information field of the intellect, and then we have the bliss field. So all these 5 layers are in continual interaction, and all these modern entities start essentially in the astral field or the Manomaya Kosha. They start as Adhi and percolate down to the physical body as the Vyadhis. Adhija Vyadhi they are called. And as all of us know, these NCDs, non-communicable diseases, have become the major challenge to the modern medical world, because the allopathic system is essentially based on modern science, which tracks only the physical system. And we have not been able to track and understand the deeper dimensions of this entire creation. And physics is in a turning point. The science is in a turning point to go beyond the physical, to understand the subtler and causal dimensions of this creation. It's here that yoga, over thousands and thousands of years, have been able to understand and unravel the mysteries of this whole creation. And these are the 5 layers called the Panchakoshas: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnana, Anandamaya Koshas. And this can form the real basis for the entire integrative system. As the physical body, we can use the allopathic system, and similarly, many of the pharmacological interventions of Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy, and others, and the dimensions related to physiotherapy and then diet and yogasanas in general can all come in the Annamaya Kosha. Then at the Pranamaya Kosha, we have got the principles of prana. So we have the pranayama, then we have the yoga systems in which we emphasize on the pranic dimension, and then we have the homeopathy, which also talks on the subtle dimension of potentization and others. And similarly, we have the acupressure of the Chinese system, and all these things can form in the Pranamaya Kosha. Then in the Manomaya Kosha, we have the mind field, in which we have the dimensions related to the Bhakti Yoga. The dimensions of yoga also bring about the Raja Yoga, the dimensions of Patanjali Yoga. Then in the Vijnanamaya Kosha, we have the understanding dimension, psychology comes into picture, and we also have the dimensions of parapsychology and others, and therefore we have the integration. And finally, in the bliss field, it is the yoga, the higher dimensions, higher levels of mind, in which we have the highest dimensions of bliss. So this is how the Panchakosha concept, which have been postulated in the Upanishads, have been able to provide a wonderful basis for the entire system of integration. So this is what we have been using in our Arogyadhama, which is a 400-bed facility now in our Prashanti Kutelam campus in Bangalore, and people get immense benefit. Things which are almost intractable have been able to get wonderful results. And over the last 30 years, we have been able to evolve this integrative system in which we have allopathy, we have got the yoga, we have got the dimensions of homeopathy, the naturopathy, and all these things put together in a very harmonious way based on this Panchakosha thing. And now we have also developed a nice curriculum to be brought forth into the medical system. In the MBBS, we can bring this integration in which all systems can be brought. And that is the day ahead of us. And we all look forward to this process of integration based on the very strong scientific basis of understanding of the whole creation. And I hope this seminar a great success and wish you all the best. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Suman, for the introduction to Dr. H.R. Nagendra, and to Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendra, for a wonderful talk on the Panchakosha, the very basis of the framework you've provided and suggested for integrative health to move forward. There cannot be a better visionary than you, who heads and who is the Chancellor of S. Vyasa, one of the largest yoga universities in the world, to put the ball rolling. And we'll see what the other speakers have to say, namely Dr. Balasubramaniam from Harvard and Dr. Arun Garg from Canada. Guruji, you nicely brought out the physical, the mental, the spiritual aspects as defined by the Ayurvedic framework, the Panchakosha. And I now invite Dr. Ajay Gambhir to chair the session. Dr. Ajay Gambhir is a neonatologist and a clinical epidemiologist with innovation, advocacy, and strong commitment to quality, which is also very close to my heart, because in our lab, we are involved in quality assurance programs and taking it all the way into integrative health experimentation. And I'm delighted to introduce you to Dr. Ajay, who's not only been the secretary of Delhi Medical Association for 2020 to 2021, but he's also been a part of Quality Council of India and a board member, National Technical Board of Nutrition and Niti Aayog. This shows that he has the knack for quality, which is lacking in most of our endeavors, and especially in emerging, or rather re-emerging, field of integrative health. So without much ado, I'll request Dr. Ajay Gambhir to kindly introduce Dr. Balasubramaniam. Thank you.
Thank you. I thank Dr. Akshay Anand, our moderator, for introducing me. And I thank Dr. Tandon and Dr. Sibal of Gapaiko for giving me chance. I want to introduce our speaker for integrative medicine. Dr. Balasubramaniam is an associate professor of anesthesiology at the Harvard Medical School. Dr. Subramaniam was appointed as the first incumbent of the Ellison G. Pierce Chair of Anesthesia. Dr. Bala is Director, Loring School Program, and Director, Center for Anesthesia Research Excellent at the Beth Israel Reconnaissance Medical Center, Boston, USA. Now, all to Bala Subramaniam for his deliberation.
Greetings, everyone. I'm very thankful to Dr. Anil Tandon, Dr. Ajay Gambhir, and Dr. Akshay Anand for this invite. I thank the organization Global Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. It's my privilege to talk about integrative medicine, and I'm just going to share my thoughts on this. I don't have any disclosure that is relevant to this presentation. My research is funded by NIH, industry, Department of Defense, philanthropy, and I'm also a board member for the Scientific Advisory Board of IIM Jammu. Most importantly, we recently started a Sadhguru Center for a Conscious Planet, enhancing consciousness, cognition, and compassion at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, a teaching, clinical, and research affiliate of Harvard Medical School in Boston, Massachusetts. My views here are my own. This is where I work, Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, attached to Harvard. And let's just get right on to it about the integrative medicine and what my thoughts are. I'm going to basically navigate this with three broad paths. One is, how do we define integrative medicine? what are the demands for integrative medicine, and how do you deliver it? Let's just go through one by one, right? I do think the future is bright for integrative medicine, and I do think that is the way to go, and probably that is the way it will go. So let's just see what is the definition of integrative medicine, right? 1948, World Health Organization basically talked about health. It's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just merely an absence of disease or infirmity. We're all used to talking about health as, are you free of disease? But it is much more than that. So they actually got it right, I think. In 1960s, from my own vantage point in Boston, Dr. Herbert Benson basically started something called the relaxation response. He went to East, learned some of these techniques, and modified it, and called it as relaxation response. At Harvard Medical School, about 50 years prior to that, almost 1910 or so, Walter Cannon talked about the fight or flight response, scientifically documented that, followed by Benson and Robert Wallace describing this, that meditation actually reduced metabolism, rate of breathing, heart rate, and brain activity, and called that as relaxation response. Was there any doubt that we knew this about thousands of years ago? We just didn't put that in this scientific way. They also documented that about 60 to 90% of doctor visits are for conditions related to stress. And that is indeed true even now. 1987, they started Mind Life Institute, which is thriving now all over US. It is a beautiful organization. Basically, it emerged from a meeting between Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, Francisco Varela, and Adam Engel. They thought about doing this, making science as a dominant framework to explain the Mind Life Institute, investigating the nature of reality, what is a modern source of knowledge that could help improve life for people and the planet. So the unique advantage there was combining the scientific inquiry with the transformative power of contemplative wisdom. So the Mind Life Institute is indeed a wonderful organization to be part of and learn a lot from. National Institute of Health, specifically National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, defined integrative medicine as a holistic, patient-focused approach to healthcare and wellness, often including mental, emotional, functional, spiritual, social, and community aspects, and treating the person as a whole. Indeed, we knew this before. Sadhguru, a yogi, mystic, and missionary, a contemporary guru, talks about health as wholeness. And he says that if one has to experience this sense of wholeness and oneness, it is important that one's body, mind, and above all, energy functions in a certain level of intensity within themselves. So there is an energy basis for every physical or psychological situation that we go through in life. And that in turn has a chemical basis. Unfortunately, allopathy has become a lot to do with the chemistry, fixing the symptoms. And, yes, it does work in majority of the times when there is trauma, right? When there's patient bleeding and surgery, and that is something that you need to do right away. Or infections from outside, where you need to combat these infections. But many of those chronic diseases, probably allopathy is not the best way to go. And we do know that 1/3 of the illnesses that we have is probably what we have an answer with allopathy. And maybe that is even an overstatement. So in the Sadhguru Center for a Conscious Planet, Sadhguru actually gave a quote, and it's very apt to talk about that here. Consciousness being the fundamental intelligence that crafts both body and brain, Conscious Planet is a way forward for all issues within and without. And that is really the best statement I could ever think about. I wanted to bring your attention now that with COVID and all, stress being the dominant issues even before COVID, now enter COVID, what happened? We did a survey throughout US. This was IRB approved survey. You can see that at 0 weeks, at 6 weeks, and 12 weeks, this is all at the peak of the pandemic. We're talking somewhere between May to October. And you can see actually that majority of the participants were from Northeast, Texas, and California, which is how it traveled. At all 3 time points, what was the stress level in these people? So perceived stress scores, when you look at it, at baseline, at 6 weeks and 12 weeks, in all three groups, what are these three groups? This gray color are those who regularly practiced yoga, specifically inner engineering and above. And the blue and orange are those who did not. They are age and gender and zip code matched controls. And these controls were randomized at the baseline to a simple yogic process called Simakriya. So at baseline, the control group and the intervention group similar. Whereas at 6 weeks, you can see that those who practice Simakriya actually drop down a little bit and they maintain at the lower level even further. There could be a learning effect of these questions, but still you can see that those who practice yoga regularly during the COVID pandemic really had the lowest levels of stress throughout this US, highest levels of joy, highest well-being, and also awareness. In another work by Professor Sadasivan from Indiana University and others actually showed that with a 4-day retreat, anandamide levels are high, brain-derived neurotrophic factor levels are high, happiness is high, less anxiety, less depression, and more awareness. So when you look at the NCCH, right, the 10 most common complementary health approaches, this data is from 2012, people resort to use of natural products. Now we are talking about the demand and deep breathing techniques, yoga, Tai Chi, etc. We're talking in US, the use of these particular modalities. So there is a demand, and this has only grown even more in the last 8 years or so. So use of yoga and meditation in US adults aged 18 and over, this is 2012, 2017. You can see that there's a huge jump. About 15% of the people are doing yoga in some form or the other. West commonly recognizes yoga as the bodily postures, but more and more people are getting aware of this meditative aspects, and you can see that huge jump. Now about 15% of the people do meditation. In a recent meta-analysis, it was published that, a summary of all the trials, that meditation is the best way to combat stress. And so I say future is bright. We have their attention. There is, demand. We have a clear definition of what health is. And now it is all about delivery. I do think people from all the other specialties, whether it could be traditional Indian medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, they all have their values and they have a role to play, especially when they can identify the source of the problem and attack the source. So I think if we all channelize our energy towards that, we can deliver this much better, I think. And what is important is we have to produce evidence for reproducibility. So documentation of the data, presentation of the data is not a work for just a single person. A lot of people have to come out with this kind of data. For example, A1 versus A2 milk. My colleague Akshay Anand from PGI Chandigarh had done this work. And putting this data together is very, very helpful, right? And collaboration with multiple disciplines with an open mind, I think, will set the trends. And ensuring quality control for such, all the medicines, not just allopathy, but Ayurveda, yoga, Unani, Siddha, homeopathy, Chinese medicine, etc., will be really good, having the quality control. And by setting up unparalleled training and also to have enough integrative medicine providers, I think we can reach there. Again, I emphasize that the future is bright for us, and we should really make this happen. Thank you so much.
Wow, that was an amazing session, and taking the leads of Guruji Dr. Nagendra. And thank you, Dr. Ajay Gambhir, for introducing Dr. Balasubramaniam, who's heading this beautiful Center for Consciousness at Harvard Medical School. He took the lead from Guruji Dr. Nagendra and the Panchkosha and took it all the way straight into the science of yoga and consciousness, bringing forth the beautiful studies on the time held at the time of COVID lockdown of how people addressed the issue of stress and anxiety by using inner engineering program. And you very nicely defined how integrative medicine can be perceived and understood, and this will be valuable for our physician friends as well as scientists and biologists working towards evolving an integrative health paradigm for us. And you very also nicely talked about the importance of the demand that is being created and how do we deliver this demand. So there is a demand in the patients to get the best of all systems of medicine. And your own institute at Harvard, Dr. Benson, and the other people, the Mind Body Institute that you have, the US has put forward to the Dalai Lama's program, the way that has come up has science as the basis or a substrate for taking the integrative health using yoga as the main mind body medicine tool. And this was really amazing. And thanks once again, Dr. Ajay Gambhir and Dr. Balasubramaniam. So without much ado, we will now move to the next session. So we had these two exciting talks, and now I would request Dr. Harish Gupta, who is the chairperson for our last but not the least, the most important speaker, Dr. Arun Garg. Dr. Harish Gupta, who is the chairperson who will be chairing the session, is an alumnus of Maulana Azad Medical College and is a practicing surgeon at Delhi. He is also the former president of DMC, or the Delhi Medical Association. He was elected to the Medical Advisory Council of National Medical Commission. As you know, the Medical Council of India has now been replaced by the National Medical Commission. So he plays a lead role there, and we're really delighted to have him chair this session because he seems to have a knack for an integrative health, which I hope gets introduced and inserted into the mission and the program of the National Medical Commission. I will now request Dr. Harish Gupta to kindly introduce Dr. Arun Garg from Canada, who is another person with a reputation in integrative health and a lot of passion for integrative medicine. Over to you, Dr. Harish Gupta.
Thank you. My compliments to all the delegates in the Global Indian Physicians Congress, and I bring compliments from Delhi Medical Council, National Medical Commission, and Delhi Medical Association. At the very outset, I thank Professor Akshay Anand for the nice introduction. And for our session, I like to introduce Dr. Arun Garg for the coming session. Dr. Arun Garg is a champion and an advocate of culturally efficient and effective holistic healthcare for any human being living in the universe. He holds a doctorate of philosophy in biochemistry, Doctor of Medicine and Fellowship of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Canada and American College of Pathologists. He is also a consultant in medical biochemistry for 40 years in Fraser Health's Department of Laboratory Medicine and Pathology. He is a clinical professor of pathology in the Faculty of Medicine at the University of British Columbia and a director of its Cooperation and Engagement Officer of Global Medicine. He also holds adjunct professorship of the clinical service in the Faculty of Health Science at Simon Fraser University and a distinguished visiting professor at Sibyasa, Bangalore, India. So he's a member of the executive committee of the Global Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. Dr. Arun Garg has contributed tremendously to enhance the collaborative partnership of Global Association of Physicians of Indian Origin with the Canada-India Network Society. As a founder of the Canada-India Network Society, the vision of Dr. Arun is to build a collective strength necessary to enhance healthy civil society and lowering the burden of chronic diseases based on integrative leadership and integrative medicine. His interest and extensive experience allows him to have a global practice and engagement, and we are very fortunate to have a legend in the medical field and a medical luminary of global recognition as Dr. Arun Garg. I request Dr. Arun Garg to please start his talk. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is a great pleasure for me to be part of this workshop. I want to start by thanking GAPIO for the opportunity to establish working group of which I am the chair and be part of this session. I have no conflict of interest to declare. I want to start, as is the tradition in Canada, because I should have said greetings from beautiful British Columbia, Canada. We start by invocating that this program is being streamed due to technology from the land of traditional First Nations, which is unceded and familial territory. I also want to uh, invocate that my presentation is only possible because of my heritage, which is in India, and large amount of knowledge on integrative medicine has come from Vedic period. I want to thank our chair and the moderators for the session, Dr. Akshay Anand, our moderator, and Dr. Bhavina Chavaria, of chair of the session, and thank you for the kind words and thank you for the introduction. So let me set the scene. What the purpose of my objectives are and what the purpose of integrative medicine. I think COVID has set a new normal. COVID has changed how we think about healthcare, how we deliver healthcare. I believe there is an opportunity in this crisis, and we must engage the community, both the individual person and society, for best healthcare. And COVID has proven that. There is a gap in care, and both the role of the individual and the society in healthcare is critical. And that's what I want to share with you in my interpretation of integrative medicine. In the context of integrative medicine, I will, because I only have a few minutes, what is integrative medicine? And this is based on my interpretation and need analysis, which is based on some 40 years of practice. And I have seen the limitations of regular acute care and strength of community care. So I would try to integrate these together. Just at the start, what integrative medicine is not. This is not a political policy statement. This is not choosing one practice over other. This is not making a statement for the sake of a statement. And most important, this is not replacing one with other. It's a fusion. It's a strength. It's a building on each other. This is really truly integrative medicine. So, what are my foundations in building this case? Uh, my approach is how we could have best of East and best of West in building good care. Its applications for based on best outcomes evaluation. It's connecting the dots. It's integrating. It's the fusion and synthesis of principle. It is filling the gap, not creating a gap. So let's explore it further. I say that integrative medicine consists of two components, what we call external interventions. These are interventions for healthcare which are done by an outside expert. These are mostly professionals who are trying to restore health in otherwise unhealthy system, unhealthy person. These are mostly based on experiment. They are linear in their approach. They are reductive. And what I mean by reductive is they narrow at the cellular level, at the organ level. They do not think of the person as a whole. That's why I've used the word reductive. They are concrete in their thinking. They have to have clear start, finish, and anything in between. They are active. They are limited and finite, and mostly they are done for you. This is the key piece, that in this you become the person. The patient is passive, and interventions are done by someone to you. Other hand, internal interventions are done and the responsibility of self. You are totally responsible for it. You are the driver. It comes from within. They are based on holistic approach, and critical there is that it considers you as a person, and that person having a body, which is organs, mind, and intellect, and it looks at all those levels. If I could use an example of a symphony, where you have players, you have a conductor, and you have a producer. Similarly, internal interventions are based on summing up all those three. So instead of noise, music come. They are circular, they are observational, they are experiential. You have to experience it. They are infinite, they are abstract, and they are passive, and you are responsible for them. Integrative medicine is really then fusion of internal and external interventions. Integrative medicine takes principle of Western intervention and enhance the care, which is chronic care, prevention, promotion, use of yogic, Ayurvedic principles of self in care. And that is one of the key difference and key point of integrative medicine, that it put a lot of emphasis on self, emphasis on person, lifestyle, diet, principles of mind, pranayam, and self-empowerment. So, in summary, integrative medicine is an opportunity for us to provide better care in chronic diseases. In the context of diabetes, which is a major problem, there is a major tsunami. COVID is a child's play with the tsunami which waits us for diabetes. There is a major gap in care. Most of the interventions are pharma and procedures, and we know they have limited success. They're important, but they're limited. Role of self, lifestyle, and behavior in is there a gap. Integration of both, along with technology and communication, is the application of integrative medicine in diabetes care. I think this integrative medicine can allow us to really improve the system. Integrative medicine is community-based program. It has role of community clinics, primary care networks, system approval, and system approach to care. It includes a multidisciplinary approach, multi cultural approach, culturally effective and culturally efficient care. It has allied healthcare workers, nurses, spiritual leaders, and business leaders. We need to make everyone part of the system for the best outcomes. It truly is integrated system, integrated thinking, and integrated leadership. So, in summary, then, integrative medicine is a fusion of internal and external intervention for best outcomes for chronic care. I want to end by also saying that our efforts through GAPIO and through the working group, we want to integrate some of these principles in established medical programs, and certainly speaking from Canada, that's where our effort has been. We would like to work towards incorporating some of these principles and practice in training programs. We want to incorporate process and procedures in clinical guidelines. We want to build community capacity. And most important, whatever we do is based on evidence and research and outcome analysis for fusion of practice. I want to end by also thanking my fellow colleagues and participants for the panel section. Guruji, who has been a guide to me in connecting me with my heritage in India. So thank you, Guruji, Dr. Nagendra, and Dr. Balakrishna. I want to thank our moderator again, and I also want to thank Gapio for providing me this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Harish Gupta, for a wonderful introduction to Dr. Arun Garg. And thank you, Dr. Arun Garg, for an excellent presentation. All three of you made a really very compelling and an interesting, engaging talk, starting from Panch Kosha to Dr. Bala's emphasis on the definition, demand, and how to deliver integrative medicine with his experience as an anesthesiologist as well as the director of the Center for Consciousness. And finally, by Dr. Arun Garg's huge experience, and now as a part of GAPIO, having realized that the practice of medicine needs to get transformed into integrative health, you very nicely pointed out what integrative medicine is not, that it is not a political statement, or it's not just about making a statement of policy or trying to put one system above the other. It's all about bringing the best of East and the West, as you put it in the slides. I remember that vividly. And I think both Dr. Balasubramaniam as well as Dr. Arun Garg will agree with me that Dr. Nagendra Guruji's emphasis on Panch Kosha provides the real bedrock and substrate for us to take this journey towards integrative health seamless, without barriers, and by taking all the systems together, because we have to agree that integrative health is not another branch of medicine. It is basically meant to bring the best of all the disciplines together, as Dr. Arun Garg said, putting dots together. And these dots should be put together in such a way so that they are cost effective, are seamless, and with patient in the center of the whole thing, not just as the patient today is in playing a more of a passive role where the external interventions of allopathy come in. And we are not discounting the beautiful and wonderful role that allopathy has played in trauma and infections, as Dr. Balasubramaniam said. But we need to go much beyond that into Manomaya or the Pranamaya Kosh, as Dr. H.R. Nagendra said. We need to include and engage the Ayurvedic framework of Panch Kosha and bringing the physical intervention, bring the spiritual benefits, the emotional benefits, and most essentially the Manomaya Kosha has to be addressed so that the psychosomatic disorders or the non-communicable diseases, as we know them as lifestyle diseases, can be usefully delivered to the population and public in a preventive and a cost-effective fashion. And most importantly, as Dr. Arun Garg said, we need to deliver this in an evidence-based fashion. So we need to have more experiments done in the lab using cell culture models, even animal models if required, to do efficacy studies, to compare one system with the other for one disease, or even for interventions that can address the question of halting of a disease from pre-disease state to a fully blown state in a preventive or a primordial, if I may call it, fashion. And this is the way we can bring in happiness, joy, and to the entire process of the evolution of a human being from a child to adolescent to a middle age, and make aging more joyful and less chronic disease, less infected, or I would say less dominated by the chronic symptoms. So this is only possible if we can bring the best of the disciplines together. And I hope these derivations have made a lot of policymakers think, our physician friends to think of how they can develop their own fields, nephrology, cardiology, neurology, psychiatry, and other surgical perioperative procedures, post-operative outcomes. How can we bring in the best of the mind-body techniques to the benefit of integrative health and for the benefit of patients? So I hope this was useful. We have your questions. We can see so many of you replied there, and I promise that we'll get back to you within a week's time. And enjoy the proceedings and other sessions. And I hope I was able to moderate the session for the benefit of all the speakers, the chairperson. I thank all of you, and especially the audience, for participating. We'll have another session, GAPIO, and finally, I'd like to thank GAPIO, as well as the journal that I represent here, the Journal of Integrative Medicine Case Reports. We ran a Yoga Scholars PGMER program for 225 days. You can log in and watch that. We have lots of integrative health related resources out there, and hope to connect with you again next year. Thank you very much. Namaste.